AOC.
Yeah, but first, I think we should have a moratorium on white dorks on Zoom calls.
Okay.
You know, we have like
Done.
We have Fastest and we have fan mail, and I just can't listen to those Nate Silvers and these Saliza people. Just bites into this glorious show. AOC. What? She's kind of fun in a silly but earnest, wrong but adorable way. She's like your daughter when she comes back from her first year at Brown, full of half-baked, half-opinion.
There she was in Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez striding into the public arena with the confidence of someone who just discovered Wikipedia and decided to run the economy based on the fun facts section. And just when you thought it couldn't get more surreal than her cosplay as an economist, along came Greg Gutfeld smirk, locked and loaded, wielding the rhetorical equivalent of a fly swatter ready to clean up the circus.
In need of some gentle, patient deprogramming. But people have to realize new faces doesn't mean new ideas. Drives me crazy. AOC has never introduced a fresh idea or issue in her life. The reason why she gets along with Bernie is because she's like an 80-year-old leftist in a used bookstore. I mean, she may look fresh, but she's as stale as an abandoned futon on the street. It's like, I listen to her, I go, I heard that at Berkeley in 1983.
It started like every classic AOC moment, a camera, a microphone, and absolutely no idea what she was talking about. This time, she was on a familiar crusade delivering a passionate monologue with the zeal of a freshman who just finished Das Kapital. Billionaires are evil, money is fake, and reality is just one loud tax the rich. Away from bending to her will. Enter Greg Gutfeld, part roastmaster, part therapist, armed with the patience of someone who's survived her explanation of interest rates as if they were a capitalist conspiracy.
Yes, I pay people to wear handcuffs. But she did this because she knew the media would obey. Let's watch the tape. She'd be a great mime, like the Latina version of Marcel Marceau. In fact, here she is later in her jail cell. Of course, AOC was mocked on social media for imitating being handcuffed, which is a change from her usually being mocked for imitating a congresswoman.
There she stood, signature, bewildered outrage in full effect, arguing that jobs are a capitalist myth and the economy should work like a group project. Everyone gets an A, even if nobody does the work. Meanwhile, Gutfeld sat back, sipping metaphorical tea, watching her swing at invisible ideological enemies like a piñata on a windy day. He didn't have to argue. He just watched the unraveling like someone trying to program a VCR using interpretive dance.
Time AOC has taken a break from doing nothing to get into a beef with the Twitter chief. On Tuesday, she tweeted, LMAO at a billionaire earnestly trying to sell people on the idea that free speech is actually an $8 a month subscription plan. That's a reference to Musk's plan to charge people $8 a month for verified blue checkmark status. But he hit back tweeting, your feedback is appreciated, now pay $8.
And of course, she brought up the Green New Deal again. That legislative fever dream where airplanes are grounded, cows are canceled, and we all live in solar-powered yurts fueled by collective guilt. AOC pitching this fantasy for the 738th time is like watching someone try to sell a haunted blender, confusing, a bit scary, and mostly noise. But Gutfeld, he didn't need to counter it. He simply let the math expose her. Because when she says, it'll pay for itself, what she really means is, I haven't opened Excel since college.
To be fair, she'd love to spend the $8, but she already bought a Tesla. He also tweeted a photo of some ugly AOC merch she's trying to hawk for $58. Overpriced merch, AOC. Seems pretty capitalistic of you, which according to you makes you evil. And according to anyone paying attention, also makes you full of.
There's something gloriously ironic about AOC passionately dismantling an economy she clearly doesn't understand. It's like watching someone try to fix a car by yelling at the hood. The best part, she always thinks she's the smartest person in the room, adorable, like a toddler who thinks they've invented time travel because they figured out the microwave timer. Gutfeld, though, is a different breed. He doesn't interrupt, he doesn't shout, he just waits for her to trip over her own buzzwords like someone trying to do a TikTok dance in ski boots. Then, with the precision of a sniper and the poise of a stand-up comic, he dissects the nonsense, line by line. It's not a debate, it's performance art. AOC brings the chaos. Gutfeld brings the popcorn.
The reason why they don't have any ideas is they operate on half opinions. Like, what if we get rid of cash bail? Oh, let's do it. What happens? You have repeat criminals wreaking havoc. What if we have sanctuary cities? Hey, let's do it. What happens? You have rapists and killers, finding sanctuary, safe haven. What if we give trans rights that we don't have? Well, you just ruin women's sports, you ruin safe spaces, you make kids' lives hell, but they never think about what their ideas incentivize. That would be nice. So where are their ideas going to come from?
And then came her defense of her economic ideas, a theatrical display of flailing hands and financial illiteracy. Apparently, government spending is just monopoly money in better fonts. Meanwhile, back on Earth, inflation is sprinting like it's on a Red Bull bender and grocery prices are cosplaying as Rolexes. But sure, let's double down on her utopian economics, where scarcity is just a capitalist rumor. At one point, she floated the idea of government-guaranteed jobs as if nothing could go wrong with a bureaucracy that makes the DMV look like Formula One. Gutfeld, tie unruffled, didn't need to shout. He practically airlifted viewers out of her policy hallucination. No passport required. She brought the fever dream. He brought the fire extinguisher.
Explains it. They're not meant for you, right? But then you have to ask, okay, then what is this debt forgiveness? Who is it meant for? And when you look at the data, it's upper, white, middle class, liberal women. This ain't welfare, right? These are well-to-do people. It's a bribe for Democrats on the backs of plumbers, truckers, and everyone else who actually does a real job, unlike me. AOC is the symbol of the entitled sponge. She complains about student loans, but she owns a Tesla.
Her proposals sounded like they were brainstormed at a kombucha-fueled seance, with Karl Marx speaking through a TikTok influencer. Print more money. Free stuff for everyone. Sure. And while we're at it, let's make gravity optional and see what happens to air travel. Gutfeld didn't need a punchline. He just held up the mirror. Her logic collapsed under its own artisan, gluten-free weight. Her supporters, quieter than a Whole Foods during a blackout. Then came the grand climate panic segment, her signature, apocalypse dance, like Al Gore's PowerPoint, but with eyeliner and less data. 10 years left. She cried again, less like science, and more like a recurring dream she refuses to wake up from. Even the guy who built the doomsday clock is probably begging her to hit snooze.
And worse, she owns a French bulldog. Thanks to Cat Temp, I know everything about French bulldogs. And one thing I know,
I got a French bulldog.
They are so expensive. They're more expensive than any college tuition. That you got to take care of them. They're adorable dogs. But she owns a Tesla and she owns a French bulldog, and she wants you or your dad, the electrician, to forgive her student loan. That's BS. Turn in the Tesla, sell the dog. I'll buy it half.
Gutfeld, unbothered, blinked, slowly like a man who's heard this same prophecy one too many times over brunch with people who own healing crystals and blame capitalism for their avocado turning brown. In that dry, devastating way of his, he noted that every time AOC gives a climate speech, somewhere a solar panel calls in sick from secondhand embarrassment. She's the only person who can talk about wind energy and somehow sound winded. Mention nuclear power and she recoils like you insulted her kombucha starter. Then came the peace resistance, her solution to economic inequality. Not jobs, not innovation. Nope, welcome to the vibe economy. Just crank the money printers like it's Coachella for currency. Hand out checks like Oprah on Red Bull, and boom, equity. Even people who list manifesting as a job title were confused. Her economic vision feels like a Spotify playlist titled Chill Marxist Beats to Deconstruct Capitalism too.
So by now you heard that AOC, among others, were arrested last night. She truly is an American hero. It was brutal, taken out in cuffs. Well, technically her shirt had cuffs. Maybe French cuffs, as she did surrender without fighting. But if her pants had cuffs, she would have pretended to be in leg irons too. But real handcuffs, not so much. But that didn't stop her from pretending. And I hate it when people do this to me. When I ask people to put on handcuffs and they say, I'll just pretend I have them on, I'd be like, sure, and I'll pretend to pay you after.
Gutfeld didn't need a bar graph or a laser pointer. just crossed his arms and raised an eyebrow, the universal symbol for "Are you seriously saying this out loud?" Then he dropped a truth bomb. Economic laws aren't seasonal trends. You can't fix inflation with vibes, repair supply chains with affirmations, or raise GDP by aligning your chakras. And the irony. AOC warns about the evils of capitalism, while live streaming from a $3,000 apartment, sipping artisanal matcha in designer clothes. If hypocrisy were renewable energy, she could power the Tristed area. Gutfeld casually pointed out that she critiques big corporations from within their apps, on their platforms, using their reach. It's like boycotting Starbucks while sipping a venti caramel macchiato. She sees herself as the voice of the people, but has the relatability of a Netflix character written by AI chef's kiss.
But there is kind of an interesting flip going on here where hardcore leftists are in bed with the hawks. A lot of them are. And then you're seeing the right trying to slow the roll of nuclear war. Some analysts are putting at the odds of a nuclear event at 25.
Then there's her fixation with banning things: gas stoves, pickup trucks, free speech, unless it agrees with her. It's like she's playing Dictator Simulator but forgot she's only in charge of her next Instagram Live. Meanwhile, Gutfeld has made a cottage industry out of pointing out that her entire political toolkit consists of hashtags, slogans, and guilt trips. Disagree. You're a fascist. Ask for math. You're a bigot. Bring up data. That's violence. It's a funhouse of emotional manipulation, wrapped in a sweater, lit by ring lights. She rails against the rich while pocketing six-figure checks, signing book deals, and strutting down red carpets like she's auditioning for the real politicians of DC. But don't worry, she's still oppressed. Just ask her publicist.
Yeah, Bernie and AOC, do you think they're banging the wrong drum here? No, the message. For example, I've never actually said the word oligarchy out loud until today. Oligarchy. What's next? Plutocracies? Shall we target plutocracies on behalf of the proletariat? I mean, that might make the purple man buns in the quad swoon, but it ain't gonna fly in the living room, kiddos. When they talk about fighting, they're saying they need a Trump. That's what they're saying. But I'm gonna define what an oligarchy is and where you can find one. It means government by.
When she's not preaching from her eco throne, she's attacking anyone with logic like they're the final boss in a feelings-based video game. Gutfeld just lets her talk and waits. Eventually, she contradicts herself, calls it nuance, then accuses you of racism for noticing. Consistency is her only consistency. Climate, economy, race, gender, sandwich pricing it, always circles back to capitalism. Billionaires, or whichever Republican dared look at her Twitter feed. Her arguments are like Mad Libs filled with buzzwords and no nouns. Gutfeld doesn't debate, he delivers autopsies. By the time he's done, her revolutionary ideas are just Pinterest quotes with delusions of grandeur. While she rides the outrage carousel powered by sustainable unicorn tears, he watches, amused, like someone watching a squirrel try to solve a Rubik's Cube.
What do you make of AOC?
That's the best.
Trio, yeah.
I do. The fact, I don't think that anybody can even, I think I don't even realize how funny it is, because it's that funny that she just quietly removed the pronouns from the bio. Mm-hmm. I think that maybe these people are starting to realize that there's this huge difference between trans people and then trans activists. Obviously it's for political reasons, it was this huge loss, but at least she seems to be acknowledging, like, oh, okay, who is this for?
Yeah.
Actually,
Let's not forget the greatest hits, crying in front of empty parking lots, pretending to be arrested while politely walking with police, or cosplaying as socialist Marie Antoinette at the Met Gala wearing a tax the rich dress worth more than your student loans. Her brand is basically, do as I tweet, not as I do. Meanwhile, Gutfeld's only weapon is reality, and that's all he needs. AOC takes the stage like she's giving a TED Talk curated by Tumblr, and somewhere, every time she opens her mouth, an economics professor dies a little inside. Watching Gutfeld handle her is like watching a cat play with a laser pointer. She runs in circles chasing ideological phantoms while he calmly shines the light of logic onto her contradictions.
So the only way an oligarchy can exist is if it's non-transparent. But what's the most transparent government in history? The one that shows you where your money's being spent? The one that releases files on assassinations? The one that answers every single question you ask them? The one that tweets or posts every single action and tells you ahead of time what they're going to do? If Trump the administration is an oligarchy. It's the worst one.
She talks about justice like it's a coupon code and public policy like it's open mic night at a vegan cafe. Gutfeld doesn't yell. He doesn't fight. He just smirks and lays down the rhetorical equivalent of a steel trap. Every time she speaks, she gives him more material than a Netflix comedy special, from proposing economic plans that would bankrupt a lemonade stand to suggesting, "We solve global diplomacy with emojis and good vibes." AOC is the gift that keeps on giving. Gutfeld doesn't destroy her because he's cruel. He does it because the contrast is effortless. It's like comparing a calculator to a fortune cookie. One has data, the other just feels confident.
I think AOC sucks. I think progressive ideas are horrible. It's diet communism. It's dangerous for the country. And I don't worry if she gets in the Senate because she's so ineffective as a congresswoman. I don't think that she's going to do anything of.
So while AOC continues building her political brand out of cardboard, glitter, and recycled Twitter threads, Gutfeld just sips his coffee and watches it all burn. With the calm satisfaction of someone who knows you don't need to fight nonsense, you just have to point at it, and when the dust settles, she'll be back explaining on Instagram why feelings should be federal policy and declaring moral victory because someone clapped in the comments. But the rest of us? We'll just replay the highlight reel of Gutfeld's casual evisceration and remember what it looks like when common sense meets cosplay politics and wins with a punch.